Hi, my name is Mary Worth with the Baptist Health System. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to be here, and we hope you find the information we're presenting today for you helpful. February is Heart Month, and we are here today to talk about women's heart health. Baptist Health System has a few things going on for Heart Month. Coming up are 3 free lunch and learns. One is at Baptist Medical Center on February the 20th. The other is at Northeast Baptist on February 25th with Dr. Parmar. And we have another one at Resolute Hospital in New Braunfels on February 25th with Dr. Van Anderson. Also on February 20th here at North Central is a fabulous Love Yourself Girls Night Out from 6 to 9 p.m. It's a fantastic way to bring out your girlfriends, your moms, whatever woman in your life is special. We'll have fabulous food and wine and giveaways. Jen, would you like to add anything to that event?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mary.
Sure.
So we're planning this multi-generational women's event, so it's good for whatever stage of life you're at. We really just want to reinforce to women that it's time to take care of themselves and make their health a priority. So the good thing also is that the proceeds for this event will go to Go Red for Women, so it'll help fight the heart disease in women and hopefully end heart disease in women.
And I'm sorry to introduce Jennifer Meacham is our Baptist Health System dietitian, and she's also on the marketing team with me. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing you guys.
The entrance fee is $25 for that event, but like she mentioned, all proceeds go to the Go Red Women initiative. Last but not least, on February 29th, the last Saturday in February, is our Mission Healthy Heart Walk at Mission San Jose. It's a free 30-minute walk. We hope you can join us. It's on the beautiful grounds of Mission San Jose, who's celebrating their 300th birthday. So what a fantastic opportunity to enjoy the majestic mission, walk with your friends. We'll also have healthcare professionals and doctors out to walk alongside with you if you have any health-related questions to ask. There'll be lots of giveaways, and the first 50 people who show up will receive a free commemorative water bottle. So please join us. It's a great, relaxed environment to just get out and walk. I want to thank our partners that are helping us with that event: Mission Heritage, the Harvey Najum Family YMCA, Brooks, the Southside San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, National Park Service, and City Councilwoman District 3 Villa Gran. For more information about everything I just talked about, our events and classes, please go to the BaptistHealthSystem.com website and search under the Events tab. This program today is a community service and is not intended to be a substitute for medical advice. Audience members having questions about their health should make an appointment to see their personal physician. Any opinions or statements made during the program are those of the individual or the physician making the statements and are not the opinions or statements of the hospital or sponsoring party. So I have prepared a few questions here today, but really, please ask your questions live. We're here for you, for your questions and your concerns, so we'd really love to hear from you. Also, feel free, if you hear something you like, feel free to like the button right under this feed or love it. That would be even fantastic. As a reminder for those of you joining us today, my name is Mary Worth with the Baptist Health System, and we are live today talking about women's heart health for February Heart Month. With us today is Baptist Health System dietitian Jennifer Meacham, and like I mentioned, our marketing teammate. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in men and women in the United States. It is also the #1 killer among women. 1 in 3 women die from cardiovascular disease. So it's so important to understand the signs and symptoms of a heart attack, as well as to learn healthy eating habits. Here today is Jennifer. Jennifer, I'm going to ask you a few questions, so welcome.
Thank you.
What makes up a heart-healthy diet?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Mary. Healthy diet is so important because that is a lifestyle change that you have control over, or a risk factor that you have control over. We can't change who our parents are, our genes, but we can change certain controllable risk factors, such as diet, exercise, not smoking. So when it comes to a heart-healthy diet, it's actually good for the entire family, 2 years old and up. Under 2, we're really worried about brain development, so fat is really important. So a heart-healthy diet for 2 years old and up is one that is low in fat, low in sodium and cholesterol, but rich in so many other foods like fruits and vegetables, whole grains, nuts and seeds, lean meats, fatty fish, good healthy fats, low-fat dairy. So you can see it's a pretty wide list of foods that make up a heart-healthy diet. So a lot of people, when they hear heart-healthy diet, they might think of a lot of restrictions, but actually there's so much that actually can be included in your diet to make up a healthy diet.
What about sugars? Do they play a part in heart health?
They do. That's an excellent question. So excessive sugar over time can contribute to inflammation in the body and may also increase blood pressure. So yes, it can play a role in heart disease over time.
Some foods contain natural sugar. Do we have to stay away from those?
Absolutely not. You want to include natural sugars in your diet. So that would be from foods like fruits and vegetables, from milk, even from breads, and some dairy. So we don't want to eliminate those foods. What we want to look out for is the processed sugars, the sugar that's added to food. So like the obvious ones would be in cakes, donuts, chocolates, that sort of thing. But also it's hidden in so many of the foods that we commonly eat, even in our spaghetti sauces or yogurt, those kind of foods. So you really want to pay attention to the food label because yes, like we said, sugars can contribute to heart disease over time.
So if someone today wanted to start eating healthier, what's the number one thing you would recommend?
My recommendation is to start cooking at home. Simple as that. You don't need to throw away everything in your pantry, but just start cooking at home where you have control of the ingredients that you put into your meal and into your body. When we eat out at restaurants and convenience fast food places, we don't know what they're putting in the foods, and their goal is for it to taste good, right? So when you're cooking at home, you have control of the amounts that you cook with and also the portions that you eat. Often when we go out to eat, we're served larger portions than we typically would eat at home. So that simple step, that step one, could make a huge impact on your overall diet and your whole family. And the other benefit is just the social aspect of getting together as a family.
Absolutely.
Which that has a huge impact on heart health too, reducing stress and just having that positive social interaction in your life. So it's not just about the food, it can carry on into so many other areas of your life.
Fantastic. I'm going to check in with the team behind the camera, the fantastic team that's helping us today, to see if there's any questions that might be coming in. We are good. We encourage you to ask any questions you might have. We're here for you today.
Yes, ask away. We're here.
What tips can you share about how to eat healthy when dining out? I know that's hard. That's hard for people. It's hard for me.
We all have such busy lifestyles, and so I'm guilty of it too. But what I do is I employ some certain strategies when I'm going out. So one is sharing meals with your family member. That can help not only save calories and fat, but also the pocketbook as well. So it'll be a little cheaper. Other things is to scan the menu wherever you're at, either ahead of time or if you're at a restaurant to study it closely. Look for keywords that are that means that it's more healthy. So it would be like grilled, baked, broiled. You want to try to steer clear of keywords like fried, stuffed, smothered. All of those usually mean extra added fat and salt, cholesterol. So again, looking for those keywords, even steamed, like I mentioned before, grilled, baked, broiled, roasted. There's so many variety of ways that can mean that the dish is prepared a little more healthier.
Well, and the portions are so large when you go out to eat, so definitely so easy to share.
If you're by yourself, though, and you don't have anyone to share with, ask for a to-go box, and as soon as you get it, put half of it away. Because usually it is for 2 to 4 people, just one entree. Yeah. So
that's a great idea.
You definitely can go out to eat, but you have to be smart about it.
So are caffeine, or I guess caffeine and alcohol, allowed on a heart health diet?
That's a very famous question. Everybody
wants to know that.
Because I cannot live
without
coffee. Okay, we're not going to take away your coffee, Mary. But the jury's still out on caffeine if it leads to coronary artery disease. And Dr. Mohan might be able to speak more to that. However, there are rich antioxidants in both black coffee and tea. So you don't have to give up all that. But where we do get in trouble as Americans, we put all this extra stuff in our coffee and our tea. So we put creamers and flavor syrups and all that. So it's not that you have to give it away, but we're taking this heart-healthy beverage and we're putting these non-heart healthy ingredients on it over time in excessive amounts. And that more, I think, is the issue than the caffeine itself. Now, the FDA recommends about 4 to 5 cups is safe. However, my disclaimer is to always talk to your physician first, either primary care physician or cardiologist or other healthcare specialist that's monitoring your health, just so you can double check if the caffeine is there, if there's any interaction with the medications, or if your your blood pressure is okay, and those kind of things. So always better to be safe than sorry. When it comes to alcohol, so there is also a disclaimer with this one. So 1 glass for women, 2 glass for men is what's recommended. Now, however, the size is what matters here, okay? So 12 ounces beer, 5 ounces wine, and 1.5 ounces for liquor, okay? So just because it's 1 glass doesn't mean like a 24-ounce glass. So portion size is very important when it comes to those heart recommendations. If you're not drinking at all, that doesn't mean you have the green light to start drinking. This is just drinking in moderation over time is generally recognized as safe.
Thank you. The last question, Valentine's Day is coming up. We're all so excited about all that chocolate. That means lots of chocolates for all of us. Is it true that chocolate is good for your heart?
Yes, and actually, yeah, because I did earlier say that it does have added sugar. However, dark chocolate is the best. So when you're looking for dark chocolate, look for a percentage of dark chocolate that's 70% or higher. Now that will have a very strong taste. So if you're used to milk chocolate where it's creamier, it's going to have a bitter taste. So start off on the lower end and gradually work up to 70%. So like a 50% dark chocolate. The other thing I like to recommend is dipping maybe fresh fruit like strawberries in dark chocolate. So you have that little sweet and then that bitter dark chocolate. But yes, dark chocolate is definitely on the approved list for Valentine's Day.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jennifer,
Absolutely.
for answering all those questions. As a reminder, for those of you who are just joining us, my name is Mary Worth at the Baptist Health System, and we're so happy to have you with us today. We are talking about women's heart health for February Heart Month. Next up, we have our guest, President of the Medical Staff for Baptist Health System, Dr. Mohan. Welcome, Dr. Mohan.
Thank you, Mary. Hi, everyone.
Do heart issues present themselves differently in men versus women?
They do. So typically you hear about heart attacks presenting in men as chest pain or chest tightness. In women, those symptoms can be present, but there is also a variety of other ways heart attacks can present, such as dizziness, nausea and indigestion, kind of a heartburn that won't go away, is also another way that is commonly described. And things like fatigue, unexplained fatigue, when you're getting enough rest, when you have good nutrition, but you still just feel worn out all the time. Those can all be indicators of potentially heart disease.
Okay. What are some risk factors we should be aware of?
So the common ones that kind of apply to the general population are type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Those are obviously also very important in women, but also things that are more specific to women are, for example, pregnancy-related insulin that you require during your pregnancy, or you might have been on blood pressure medicine during pregnancy. That makes you a lot more likely to develop type 2 diabetes and essential hypertension later, even after the pregnancy is done. So you have to be more aware and kind of more dedicated to looking into that after the pregnancy checkups and all of those are over.
How can I tell if I'm having a heart attack?
That, again, variety of symptoms. So one of the things that we recommend is be aware of your risk factors. So your risk factors being what we just talked about: high cholesterol, diabetes, high blood pressure, family history of heart disease. And then if you have any of those symptoms, like I said, the dizziness, fainting, fatigue, palpitations, and again, chest pressure, those things can also present in women. So any of those would be indicators that you need to have something looked into.
How can someone lower the risk of heart disease?
That is a really good question. I guess the number one thing I would say is what we call a preventable risk factor. As Jennifer was saying, we can't change who our parents are, and our family history is what it is. But smoking is a huge risk factor, not just for heart attacks, but vascular disease in general. So that's something that you can stop, you know, you can change. And then lifestyle modifications. Usually what we recommend is regular exercise, changing your diet. I had a patient not too long ago who told me, well, I don't want to cook a separate meal for myself and one for my kids.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you shouldn't have to. You know, the lifestyle changes that you're making to make yourself healthier is something that your children should learn.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's a great way to get the kids involved. You know, hey, we're making a salad together, or we're cooking this together.
It's a great role model.
Exactly. And you teach them from a very young age to get in those good habits. You know, go out for a walk. And people talk about exercise like it's something really painful. And occasionally it can be. But
a walk is not. It's enjoyable.
Go in the backyard and play frisbee
easy
with the kids.
Yeah.
You know,
and it doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Go to the park, throw a soccer ball around, or whatever, you know, you enjoy doing. I had a patient not too long ago who said her exercise is grabbing her husband twice a week in the evening, and they dance. They dance around the living room. I said, what a wonderful idea. So.
And you work on your marriage at the same time.
It's therapy in both ways.
Yeah.
So those are, again, just changing your life, not all or nothing, but small steps that in the end do add up to a significant change.
Let me ask you, what kinds of screenings for heart disease do I need, and how often should I return for checkups for my heart?
So a lot of that is going to depend on family history. If you have history of early heart disease in your family, it is recommended that you start checking with a primary care physician, you know, usually earlier in life in your 20s, just a yearly checkup for blood pressure, cholesterol levels, and diabetes, to screen for diabetes. All of those things, there's no one-size-fits-all type of recipe. But getting regular checkups at least once a year, and if you are diagnosed with any of those conditions, then probably more frequently, depending on what your physician would recommend. Something that we're seeing is there's no real age limit to this, because as we become more sedentary, you know, children don't go out and run around like they used to when I was younger.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of time in front of screens, and we are seeing heart disease, heart attacks earlier and earlier, type 2 diabetes in children, which is really heartbreaking, and you know, 20-year-olds coming in with heart attacks. So age is not a factor of should I get checked or not. So
I'm going to check in with the team to see if there are any questions. And thank you, fabulous team, for helping us be Facebook Live here. Okay.
Great.
Are certain ethnicities more susceptible to heart attacks?
So the prevalence of heart disease currently, we had about 300,000 women die of heart-related complications in 2017.
Wow.
Beyond that, African Americans and Caucasians have a higher tendency to have heart disease. It can be anywhere from 9 to 11% predominance. In other ethnicities, anywhere from 6 to 7%. But it is not only a race-related issue. Like I said, there's no one-size-fits-all.
Right.
Lifestyle changes, diet, exercise, all of those things play a role.
And I'm sure in some cases people don't even know, because you hear so much about sometimes football players or athletes, just all of a sudden they have some kind of heart attack or issues.
Right.
And so you just really don't know.
Absolutely.
And is a stroke related to a heart attack?
It is. So a lot of people think of them as two kind of separate issues, but you've got to remember the small blood vessels that feed your heart are the same small blood vessels that feed the brain and different parts of your body. So a heart attack is caused by narrowing of those blood vessels, where a part of the heart muscle is not getting enough blood supply. Same thing would be happening in the brain. Those narrowed blood vessels in the brain cause what we would essentially call a brain attack. It's a stroke. Anyone who has been diagnosed with heart disease is 2 times more likely to have a stroke. So a lot of the medications that we use are similar. Having said that, there are two different types of strokes too. We have what's called a hemorrhagic stroke, which is where you have a bleed into the brain, and that may not be related to this. What we're specifically talking about are ischemic strokes. That is where you have part of the brain with limited blood supply.
Well, you're teaching me things today. Thank you so much. We
pleasure.
have a few questions from our audience members.
Great.
Thank you so much for asking them. Is there a difference between male and female risk of heart disease?
Yes. So women actually have what we call the cardioprotective factors in their life, estrogen being one of them. So when you're premenopausal, your body is producing estrogen, and that actually causes a degree of protection to the heart. Once you reach the age of 65 and older, where most of us are past that menopause age, the risk equilibrates. So family history, again, plays a role into that. But that's why I think with diet, and Jennifer can elaborate on this, but when we talk about heart-healthy diet for women specifically, we talk about soy, we talk about tofu, you know, those, what they produce a chemical called phytoestrogen. So it is a plant-based estrogen-like material that can substitute for some of the estrogen you've lost that your body's no longer producing.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that. Interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Of course.
Are there any innovations in heart disease treatments?
There are. Just in the last 20 years, there's so many new ways of approaching heart disease, both from a preventive standpoint, things like statins, which I'm sure family members, you may be aware of family members or friends who are taking them. These are medications that control the level of cholesterol. Recommendations like taking a baby aspirin if you have a history of circulatory problems. And also some of the other disease states that do affect women, such as rheumatoid arthritis, SLE, systemic lupus. Those inflammatory, kind of chronic inflammatory conditions cause chemical changes in the body, which can make it more likely to get heart disease. So medications now that we use to control those disease states also help with that. In addition to that, obviously the interventions we have, cardiac catheterization, stress tests, cardiac CTs, cardiac MRIs. It's a field that's just booming in the last few years, and really to our advantage because there's so much research going into this. It's changed the face of heart disease as we see it, not just from a preventive standpoint, from a treatment standpoint, and then patients who have advanced disease.
If you heard the lullaby, that means a baby was born. So
oh, yeah.
You're not hearing things on Facebook Live.
We are live at North Central Hospital.
Yeah,
so.
we are. So
Congratulations.
babies are being born while we do this Facebook Live.
Yeah.
Healthy hearts.
Does another few questions for you.
Course.
Does heart disease mainly affect you later in life?
Not necessarily. So as I was saying before, with men, usually 65, up to the age of 65 is when we consider them lower risk, per se, unless you have a family history. At that stage, 45 is kind of the cutoff for being considered high risk. With women, 65 is, again, that age when you stop producing that estrogen and everything kind of catches up. So we are on the same level with the men at that point.
If I'm physically fit, I should be fine, right?
Not necessarily.
Misconception.
Again, it is a misconception. I wish that were true. I think that would be wonderful. But that's not to say exercise itself does not cause heart attacks. But there may be underlying conditions, like we were talking about a minute ago with athletes. There are issues with the heart muscle itself. I always tell my patients, your doctor's office is the one place you don't want to be told you have a big heart. So conditions with the muscle of the heart, conditions with the pacemaker of the heart, all of those can affect cardiac disease. So you may not die from narrowing of the blood vessels, or you may not be affected by, but it may be other issues underlying. So it's always important. Absolutely exercise, and it's wonderful, but listen to your body. That's number one. So if something just doesn't feel right, it probably is not. So get it checked out. And also, if you know you have a history of, family history of early cardiac death or anything like those risk factors, always get checked before you start on an exercise regimen.
Fantastic. We received a few more questions from our audience members. Thank you so much for sending those in. Let me ask you, how is hypertension related to heart disease and heart attack?
So the way I like to explain this is think of your heart as a pump, so an engine with hoses connected to it. If you have a hose that's wide open and everything is flowing through nice and easy, right? If you have buildup of plaque, which is caused by certain types of cholesterol, those hoses get narrow, and the pump has to work harder to push the water through those hoses. So the same situation with your heart. As those blood vessels get narrow, your heart has to work much harder to get that blood flowing through the different parts of your body. And just like any engine, it can wear out.
Yeah, and then we have to go see the doctor when it's not working right. Absolutely.
Exactly.
You talked about risk of stroke. Does having a stroke put me at higher risk of a heart attack?
Absolutely. So they are related, as I was saying earlier. It's the same pathophysiology. What's going on in the heart with those blood vessels is going on in the brain. So fortunately, a lot of the medications that we use to prevent heart attacks and strokes are similar. And they overlap and kind of protect you from both standpoints. But just like having heart disease gives you a higher risk for stroke, vice versa, that is also true, unfortunately.
Thank you. Just checking in with the team behind the camera if there's any more questions coming in. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mohan. Is there anything else I might have missed that you'd like to add?
I just love the chocolate, by the way.
We all do.
I'm happy to deliver some good
chocolate.
news. Happy Valentine's Day.
Great news.
Absolutely.
But I think the one other thing that I think people forget, and as women we forget, we are caretakers.
Absolutely.
Not to say that the men aren't, they're wonderful, but we really feel that as a primary role, and we're so busy taking care of the kids and our significant others, our parents, our community, our co-workers. You really don't make time for yourself. I think that's such an important message, because when you ignore things and you get to the point where damage has been done, you're not in a good place to take care of anyone.
That's right.
So
you have to take care of yourself.
Take the time to take care of yourself and know that you deserve it. That's really important.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us and for sharing your knowledge.
You
Jennifer Meacham, thank you. On behalf of the Baptist Health System, thank you for taking the time out of your day and spending it with us. We hope you found this information helpful. For more information about our classes, events, and services we offer, please visit us at baptisthealthsystem.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.